Jim Henson's spirit lives on in Netflix's brand new adaptation of his 1982 classic, The Dark Crystal. This series is bigger and certainly more expensive, but is it good? We'll be talking all about that today here on TV Pilot Reviews.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TV Pilot Reviews here on AfterBuzz TV. If this is your first time tuning into our show, we are a TV Pilot Review show. To be clear, we are not an after show. We are simply a show that reviews pilots and nothing else. So today we are reviewing the pilot of The Dark Crystal, which, as I mentioned at the top, is adapted from Jim Henson's 1982 movie. And guys, Netflix went all out on this one.
Cool.
It is a 10-episode series. The episodes are about an hour each, which it's not short, I will say.
61 minutes.
61 minutes? It's a lot of time to ask me to watch a show, but we will be talking all about our opinions on the show in just a minute. Before we do that, I have to introduce my fantabulous co-hosts. First, I have the always hilarious comedy aficionado, Tara Erickson.
Oh, hey, guys. That's
I
me.
have the, I would say, worldly and politically minded Mina Wahab.
Thank you. I like that.
And I have the multifaceted Linda Antwi.
Ooh, multifaceted.
You can see her. She'll do things like prestige drama harlots to guilty pleasure 90 Day Fiancé.
Facts.
I feel like the reason I'm excited about each of the three of you being on this panel is because I feel like there are political elements in this show, so I'll be excited to hear Mina's take. I know that Linda loves her prestige TV, so I'll be excited to hear that.
Yes.
And I want to hear from...
There's a lot of snot, so you'll be excited to hear from me.
But Tara is a working stand-up in comics, so I'll be interested to hear how you feel about how the jokes play. So we'll get into that in just a minute, and I'm just the guy sitting on this end of the table trying my best. So I think I said it, but my name is Jeff Graham. Excited to get into it. On today's show, we will be giving you our overall thoughts on the pilot, keeping it spoiler-free, talking a bit about the development of the show, and then getting into a spoiler-filled section. So the longer we go, the more risk you run of hearing specific spoilers from this pilot, but we will be notifying you when we switch into our spoiler section. So you've been warned. Let's get into it. Mina, what did you think overall of this pilot?
So I was super excited because I saw it had like an 88% Metacritic rating.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched it. I'm like, what am I watching? I'm like, are you serious? This feels like it's from some outdated 80s movie. And then it ended up being like something I think I've seen like long ago when I was a kid. I wasn't in love with it for some reason, but I can definitely appreciate the artistry behind it and like the magical elements, the way it's shot, the puppets. But this whole like trope about like, oh, we're trying to find immortality is a theme that plays out in like so many different fantasy, you know, movies, books, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which I mean, it obviously came after this, but still.
Right.
I wasn't excited about it, to be honest.
Fair enough. Tara, what'd you think?
I liked it. I mean, the exact reasons that she was like, it takes you back to the 80s, I was like, yes, it's so old school. Like, how do they do that? Is that a puppet or is that partly CGI? I mean, some of it is CGI, but then watching something so different on screen, to me, is just like I can't look away. Yeah. It's so different, and I'm like, oh, I miss this. Remember claymation? I just think those thoughts while I'm watching it. I'm just like, that stuff's so cool. Yeah. I bet you this took like 10 hours for one shot. Like, I think all those thoughts, and then I'm just like, this is pretty rad.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like I was watching it able to objectively acknowledge how impressive it was, how hard this must have been to have done. I don't know if I'm here for it. To be honest, I am such a story-first person. I don't care what it looks like, if it's animated, if it's live action. I need to be compelled by the story. And I didn't find a lot of this to be terribly original. Like Mina said, I feel like this is borrowing from a lot of classic fantasy tropes we've already seen. And, you know, I'm someone who admittedly doesn't always love high fantasy. The very controversial opinion I hold is that I think the Lord of the Rings movies look amazing. They don't really do it for me personally, which I know is a controversial take, but to me this feels a lot like Lord of the Rings, but almost with less life. It's tough because I can acknowledge how masterfully manipulated these puppets are, but I don't know if I necessarily care to see puppets telling this story. I have to admit there were some times when I felt like there was just a deadness in the eyes that I had trouble connecting with, while still simultaneously acknowledging how amazing it is that this happened. So it's a tough one for me because I don't want to be a hater because so much work and care went into this, but I don't know. I don't know. Linda's laughing and I want to know why.
I'm laughing because, like, where do you go from there? Like, even if I give my opinion, that was a lot. I'm going to say that it was whack. I'm going to say that it was the worst thing that I've seen written in a long time. I think that the puppetry, because you know what, don't get me wrong, like, I love Jim Henson. I'm all about the Muppets and I love it. Like, I grew up with that and I think it's phenomenal. But what I didn't like about this Dark Crystal was it felt like I was in 1982, and it felt like the writing was in 1982, and I think that the story was not compelling. I think that it was like haphazard. I felt like, I'm talking at you.
Yeah.
Are you listening? I think the imagery, fantastic. I think the puppetry, fantastic. And I agree with you, Jeff, saying that it must have taken a lot to create that, and it must have taken a long time to make that happen. However, I think as a writer myself, you can't take away from the storyline. Like, what's the story you're trying to tell? You can try to trick me with imagery and puppets and think that that's great and everything, but at the end of the day, I'm listening to the story, and the story was not compelling for me at all. I'm sorry.
I have to agree, and you know what? This is an example of why we have a lot of programming here at the network, because this is our hot take. This is the TV pilot review panel. We're basing this off just the pilot. If you do want to see a panel of super fans who are obsessed with this show, you're in luck because we do have an after show. But, you know, let's appreciate the fact that we can have a diversity of opinions on this network. And for those who agree, we'd love to hear why in the comments below. And if you disagree, just go to the after show. You know? No, I'm just kidding. Let us know in the comments below as well. I do want to quickly acknowledge this is based on an 80s movie borrowing from the lore of Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal. This was his first on-screen venture into high fantasy with puppets. He did it again in 1984 with Labyrinth, which of the Dark Crystal movie and Labyrinth the movie, I prefer Labyrinth. That movie to me has a little more joy and whimsy. I just feel like inherently the Dark Crystal story is kind of mired in this really serious earnestness like you would see in a Lord of the Rings or a Game of Thrones, and I have trouble kind of balancing the fact that this really earnestly told serious story with puppets. Do you know what I mean?
I feel you so much. Like, I'm so shocked because I came to this panel thinking, oh my god, I'm gonna be like the only one like completely not into this.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's gonna be super positive. I'm probably gonna have the worst reviews out of all of you. But I feel like now I'm like fairly balanced after hearing your opinions.
I heard what Linda said, and I'm safe.
Yeah, I'm good now. No, but like that's how I felt. And when I was watching it, I genuinely thought this is something I would have loved as a kid if it was like my first foray into fantasy. Like, if it's the first thing I've ever seen and I have nothing to compare it to, I'd be like, oh my god, this is so cool. But we have so many stories that are so similar to it that I think it would hold a very special place for people who are nostalgic of those, like, for those types of films. But yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying with like, how do you take something seriously where you see like these interesting puppets that look kind of strange, like kind of look kind of strange, like telling this story, and like I don't know, there's something about it I couldn't click with.
It was not even the puppets, because I appreciate the puppets. It was like the dialogue and writing. Do you remember where we first met? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I had to kiss you first. Like, why? First of all, why are you talking like that, and why are you acting like that person's? I just answered my own question. It's like the person's not in front of you. It's the two puppets talking, but the people who are voiceovering it aren't realizing that that's supposed to be a connection. Yeah. And it's not, I'm talking at you and I'm answering to you.
I feel like it's like they did their voiceovers in a separate room. Yeah. Like, they did their scenes and then another actor did their own scenes, but they weren't there together talking it out.
Like, why are you talking at each other like you guys aren't supposed to be in the same scene personally?
I feel like it's also has to do with dialogue, because there's one point where she's flying over and she's like, hi family, and I'm like, who says hi family?
A lot of that.
You know, that was the biggest thing for me. I was like, all right. But okay, it still looks cool.
It
I
is
like the
great.
slugs and the weird
Totally.
look, how it looks. But I understand what everyone's saying about the storyline.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't like totally like jazzed to be like, play next.
I know. I think I would have preferred to watch this on mute. I hate to say that, but it looks so gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. One of my biggest pet peeves in fantasy stories is often you get overly expository dialogue, right? Where it's like, well, when we met last year in the Kingdom of the Seven Things, and then we dated, but you were my cousin. That's when I knew the crystal was gonna. And it's just like, I wish you could show me and not tell me this. There was so much tell and not show. I mentioned it on the show before, but when people address you by what family member you are, where it's like, hello, cousin. I'm being told that so I can learn that. It really takes me out of it. And there was a lot of moments where the dialogue was so expository just because they had to get so much information out. And it did take me out of it from a story perspective.
And I wonder what Jim Henson would think, because I feel like when I think about the Muppets, and obviously, that was so many years ago, but I feel like you didn't have to say that. You didn't have to say, I am Big Bird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you knew just by the way he would talk and establishing the relationships.
Right.
And so I'm wondering...
Well, Kermit has a personality, right? That's
Kermit, Miss Piggy,
They're
Big Bird, they're characters in and of themselves. Right. And even if the dialogue per se was not the best back then, you still fell in love with the characters.
Right.
And I don't feel like I got that with this.
Yeah, I have trouble, and it's the first episode, but I have trouble being able to give you distinguishing character traits from the 20 people we met. And that's kind of tough. If that's your pilot, my job is to leave saying, I liked this character because I can talk about story, I can talk about what's happening, I can talk about the way it looks, but it's hard for me to say I liked this character because after watching this pilot.
Yeah, there wasn't enough distinguished like differences between them. In my opinion, there was a lot that like looked the same. It was just like, oh, she's got bigger eyes and maybe one extra line on her face.
And she has
I don't know,
that
like
blue ink on her face.
Yeah,
and she can fly.
Yeah, so I agree with that. Everyone kind of looked the same, puppet wise, which made it not as exciting, I suppose.
So do we want to talk a little bit about the characters? Because there are 4 main characters since we're on it.
Yeah.
Voiceover wise. So they credit Jim Henson. And we all know who he is. And then what I thought was interesting.
Wait,
and
is Jim Henson a billed voice actor in this?
He is.
That's so interesting.
But it's not, because this is from 1982.
Oh, so this is the original Dark Crystal. So I've got a cast list. It's so large that maybe, Taron Egerton and Anya Taylor-Joy are the 2 main puppets. And you guys probably most recently saw Taron Egerton as Elton John in Rocket Man. Anya Taylor-Joy was the protagonist in The Witch, if any of you guys saw that movie. Really,
Wasn't she in Split as well?
probably. I actually didn't see Split, but she's kind of a definite up-and-comer.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is fun to see some of these other names. We have Helena Bonham Carter, who of course we know from everything.
Oh my gosh, which
Toby
one was she?
She was Madra Myrene.
Don't know who that is.
Yeah, you genuinely don't know that.
Catriona Balfe, who you guys have seen on Outlander, Awkwafina, Simon Pegg, Andy Samberg, Harvey Feinstein, Benedict Wong, Theo James, Gugu Matbara, who I really like, Alicia Vikander's in this, Lena Headey. Mark Hamill's in this.
It's like literally an all-star cast.
Yeah.
My God, I'm dying inside. Like, what are you saying? These words don't make sense to me.
It's like one of the best casts to ever be assembled.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. I wish it shone
it was
through.
good.
I wish it was their faces. Honestly, if they were all just in it and cancel the puppets, but puppets come in sometimes, like, what was that movie? Oh man, there's movies, there's TV shows with puppets and humans. If it had all those humans and a few of these puppets, that'd be like 5 stars for me.
I know. I read that cast list and I'm like, I want to go to the after party.
Me too.
I will say, we talked about it, but visually, it is unbelievable what this show has accomplished. However we feel about the show, there are 13 credited puppeteers. From what I understand based on my research, this is primarily practical, some CGI, but these 13 puppeteers did all this on set and were CGI'd out of the show. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Linda, what do you
No,
think?
I agree. I mean, I think that that's a craft. I think that,
Yeah.
to be a puppeteer is definitely a craft, and to be able to portray the emotions in a puppet that you're trying to get across, that's a gift.
Much more than this show, I want to watch the documentary. After I finish it, I learned that there's a 90-minute behind-the-scenes making of the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. Oh my God. I care way more
Yeah, I'm
about
more
that.
excited about that
I know.
too, because
Yeah.
I feel like this was really cool. The production of this was really cool.
For sure.
Yeah.
I would just want to see how that was done. I remember that was what I was so excited about with Team America, like seeing how they were able to like create all these scenes and like sets and have the puppets look like they were actually talking to each other.
I will probably watch it tonight and let you guys know what I think. So that's our thought. I mean,
Are we doing some rating? Like, we missed that part.
the rating's the last thing we do, but we do before our spoiler section. If you liked this, you will
Okay.
also like. So any other thoughts on development? We talked about how this was shot and made. Again, it's a blend of CGI and puppets. Let's talk about if you like X, you also will like this show. Linda, jump in there.
If you like The Labyrinth, The Neverending Story, Short Circuit, The Dark Crystal, the original, and The Power of the Dark Crystal, the documentary, then you will like this show. If you like,
Yeah.
yeah.
The Princess Bride.
Yeah, good call.
Any like fantasy movie from the 80s that has like that old feel to it that's kind of innocent. Maybe Harry Potter. Not too sure though.
Oh, what about oh yeah, I said it, The Neverending Story.
Yeah,
It's very much
that for sure.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Tara?
No, I would have said Neverending Story.
For sure. I have to mention Lord of the Rings, right? This is a large... I think in some ways the production design sort of looked like Middle-earth, with the mountains and sort of the sunsets. And I think in the same way that Lord of the Rings is like a very wide-eyed, earnestly told fantasy story, this is the same way. So... I, again, have the personal view that I don't really love Lord of the Rings like other people do, but I do think if you're a fan of elaborately told, character-driven, moralistic high fantasy, you probably will like this show.
Even if you like Peter Pan, I feel like you might like it.
Yeah.
Like anything that has like a kind of like an innocence to it. And I feel like, do you think that it might be coming of age for like the protagonist, like the kid trying to prove how strong he is to his dad, like that like theme playing out in different ways, the princess trying to come into her own and feel like an actual princess
Yeah, I think so.
because of her self-doubt.
Sure. I mean, again, I think my issues with this are narrative. So I think probably you're right, but I had trouble globbing on to anything from a story perspective, so it's hard for me to endorse that.
I feel like if you like imagery and if you like to be wowed, this is for you. If you're going to be bogged down by the dialogue, then you might be like, what's happening?
I feel like genuinely this is a good show for kids. Like I think if you're a family, you want to watch it with the kids, definitely go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I can't see enjoying it that much as an adult unless you just have an appreciation like for puppeteer. Yeah.
I will also say, maybe controversially, if you like marijuana, you'll probably also like this show. Maybe that's the way to watch it.
Maybe that's
And
the
for children
way.
who are watching, no. If you are of age, it might enhance your viewing of it.
Right.
It needs to be seen on a big screen though, because we keep talking about like if you put in all this work into making something with puppets for hours and hours and hours, wouldn't you want this on a big screen?
Okay,
but I think no one would buy tickets to go. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say anything.
I mean,
Bashing
without
it.
giving so much information, I used to hang out with the Texans and everything was big. So I have a huge, ridiculous screen, and that didn't stop me from liking it.
Oh,
Interesting.
Really?
It was all across my wall, and I just, you know what? It was like 61 minutes, and it took me probably an hour and a half to watch it because I kept pausing, like looking at the imagery, but like listening to the words and thinking, why is this bothering me? And it was bothering because the dialogue was so, to me personally, my opinion, was so dragging that I wanted it to speed up a little bit more. And it didn't need to be, in my opinion, 61 minutes because I got the imagery right away. Okay, it's beautifully puppeteered and dark and sci-fi-ish, but then the dialogue is it's just really bad dialogue for me.
I will say this is something we're about to move on to our spoiler section, but the last thing I'll say is I have been reading that the show gets much, much better. The problem is we're a pilot review show. Philosophically, what this show does is talk specifically about pilots. And often with Netflix, we have this discussion, right, of the show might be great, but you do have a responsibility, at least according to this panel, to really suck us in with the pilot.
Yes.
And I think for the four of us, we might not have loved it. So if you've watched the whole thing and disagree with us, that's fine. Just note that as panelists, what we do philosophically is review pilots. So that's
And if
how
it
I
gets
feel.
better, tell us what episode gets better.
I will say that I snuck ahead, only watched like 2 minutes of the second
Okay.
episode, and was like, this is a lot more fun. There was just one funny pickup, which I guess is, well, it's not a spoiler. It has nothing to do with a relationship. It's no giveaway. But there's a very funny moment right at the top where
Yeah.
I was like, man, if they would have opened on this, I would have probably been more engaged. It was just a funny puppet, like doing his hair, but he has really funny mannerisms.
Nice.
And then he looks, and then he's like, "Rrr," and then he's like, yeah. He likes it better, like messy. And I'm like, that's pretty funny to watch in this little puppet. And the way that he was doing it, I thought was just, I laughed, and I didn't do that in the pilot. So it probably does get better.
Totally. Yeah, I think this pilot could use a little more humor.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
One of the quickest ways to give life to your characters is to have them do something funny, and there wasn't really a ton of levity in this pilot. So
It was not.
This felt like more of not even an intro. It almost felt like something you would see like 4 episodes in, where like things are slowing down and
Yeah.
you need a filler episode. It didn't feel like a pilot to me, even though there was a lot of exposition.
It'd be interesting to know what order they filmed this all in.
Yeah.
Because you know how sometimes, like I was on a show where they film the pilot 4 episodes in.
Wow.
And you could tell, but it'd be interesting if that was the case here.
might be. And I plan on watching that documentary, so I will let you guys know if it's addressed. With that, anything else spoiler free before we move on to part 2 of the show?
No.
Alrighty, guys, this is our spoiler section.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Favorite thing.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
It's funny. On one hand, I'm normally like excited to get into story here, but this pilot, what was it actually about? Like, what can we talk? What do we want to talk about? Anything that resonated with you guys specifically that sounds like it'd be fun to discuss on the panel?
It was about a group of people who want immortality. So
Yeah.
there's this dark crystal that gives you that. And,
Right.
you know, obviously there are like different power dynamics involved, and there's choosing of sides, and I don't know, stuff to do with like status. And
For sure.
I love how you're like, oh, Mina, the political
yeah.
mastermind. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's not no credit to you or not
Yeah,
credit to you. It's just part of the show.
I didn't
I'm
gather
just-
much from it though.
This isn't the kind of pilot where you're particularly excited about story.
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's like these moments they try to set up with the princess and like her mom and how she took the necklace from the Skeksis or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a giving that they have to give, and then you feel bad for the family. Like you're like, oh, they're gonna be poor now because they have to give the Skeksis. But then like her mom took it because it's a nice necklace, and like you're supposed to feel something there. I think a lot more in regards to how you feel about the princess and her mom and how she's like living. And throughout this whole thing, I just didn't really feel much. I just was so interested in like, this looks so weird.
Yeah.
Like sometimes their mouth looks so real, like they're saying the words, and other times I'm like, it doesn't. It's like, God, start. And then other times I'm like, how do they make it look real right now? I was mostly concerned with like how it all looked, to be honest.
Yeah.
I remember the story, but I was never fully taken away from it. The biggest thing that I fully was like, oh, an emotional reaction was the snot guy, that I was just like, why? I don't like it. Don't want to see it. Grosses me out. I want to projectile vomit, but I'll keep watching.
Some of the world building I liked, like the thing where they had the slugs act as wheels for the chariot based
Yeah.
on an electrocution. It's like the details were so great. The big picture was what wasn't working.
I agree.
Any other thoughts on the pilot? before we-
I mean, I didn't like how, like, you know how when something's like so obvious to the audience, but it's not to like the character who's just not super savvy or smart or is completely oblivious.
Yeah.
Like moments like that annoy me, and I just remember one in particular where the protagonist is getting into the vehicle carriage with the weird looking creature. and they're like, oh, he's there, she's going with the Lord, or like she's going with the Lord, this is such a great thing, and like, you know, there's something off about it, and she's like, oh, I don't know if I should go, and he's like, you should come. And I'm like, when something is that obviously like, you know, demonic or like that spelled out for you, I'm like, that's why I think it would be such a good show for kids, because kids can pick up on that. It's too obvious and spelled out for an adult audience, and that's why I was annoyed. And even, you know, when she's like digging into the book and it's like, oh no, you mustn't read that, it just feels like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, where they're going into like the room to get books that you're not allowed to see, and you know they're gonna get caught. It's too much like spelled out for a child, which doesn't make it bad. Right. For us, for an adult audience, it's not great. For a kid audience, I think it would work.
Not as good as Harry Potter.
Really, not as good.
Not at all.
There's no Dumbledore there.
I think like the scene that most embodied the frustrating elements of this show for me was when the like evil bird wizard was the Lord was
he's
mining,
a Skeksis.
the Skeksis was mining power from the crystal, and they found that it pulls energy away from you and is potentially fatal, but it kept going, turn it off now, just turn it off, turn it off, scientist. And I was just like, I do feel like I'm watching a 61-minute pilot, and I'm watching 5 minutes of this guy say, turn it off. And let's just turn it off. You know?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Move it along.
That was the scene for me that was like, this is like a total a perfect embodiment of what frustrates me about this pilot.
Yeah. The little, and I was sad that we didn't get to see Deet, I believe was her name, the one that eventually goes up to the sacred tree.
That's right,
whatever.
it's Deet.
She's got a family. The family's like, you should go, Deet. Deet has a baby sister who literally you see from profile. Tiny's like, why did Deet go? And I thought it was so adorable, and I was like, why don't they show more of that puppet? Like, it's so weird looking, and like it's just like little baby puppet, and no joke, they show it for like 5 seconds, and I was like, why? That's like the best moment.
I think
why
that was
Deet go?
Algra.
What? Did you see more of Algra, or is it what I'm just saying?
I did
5
hear
seconds.
though that Deet does repel ticks throughout the show. So that's kind of cool. It's a Deet joke if anyone is tracking with me.
Deet. I would missed it.
Linda, you're a little quiet over there.
Because I just don't want to be a hater.
That's fair. That's fair.
Her facial expressions, like I'll glance every now and again, and just like so like.
I can't help it.
So that's totally fair. You know what? We're entitled to our opinions, and this show has gotten a lot of love and acclaim, which is great. I earnestly want to see every show succeed because I know how hard people work on this stuff. This is your chance to hear a different opinion.
Yeah.
And we'll be interested to see what you thought of that opinion in the comments below.
I am going to force myself to watch the second episode because of the beginning. I really did thoroughly enjoy it, and I did do a giggle to myself. So I will try, and I'll continue because they say it gets better, so let's see.
So is that your pass and play?
I guess that's my pass, but it's literally based on the first minute of the second episode because I thought it was cute.
So you a play pass?
I'm a play pass. I feel like maybe the ending got me when she's like going into the light, and I'm like the sacred tree, and I'm like, oh, maybe this will get cool. And then I watched the second episode and was like, that's tickled me, so I may watch more. So I feel like I was past, and then I was like, got to the end, a little bit of second, and was like, maybe I'll play some more. That's an answer, right?
Yes, that counts. Will you watch another one, Mina?
I'm gonna pass play, so I'm not gonna watch another episode, but I definitely recommend it to
audiences.
Yeah, to audiences with kids. Yeah, families with. Yeah, little ones.
Retweet that.
I mean, do we need to even hear what I have to say?
I was presuming
we want to hear the words.
I'm 1000% pass. I think there's too much good TV on.
Yeah.
But if you have a lot of time and you can fit this in your schedule, then absolutely, it's Netflix. Why not do a Netflix and chill and chill like Jeff said. But if you want to watch a lot of great TV, this might not be it for you.
I think she's right. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I did pause on the second episode to be like, I want to finish the Affair episode that I was on Showtime. And then I got into a different show on there. So, yeah.
Well, that's fair. We have a little extra time, so sometimes on this show we like to discuss the state of networks, and I do want to talk about Netflix because a very interesting announcement dropped today that I want to get your opinions on. So let's do a little news and gossip if that's allowed on the show.
We didn't get your past play, by the way.
I retweeted Mina.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
That's a thing that the youngins say now, is if they like something verbally, they can say retweet, and then it means the same thing. So
I just
Netflix-
learned that right here today.
You were today years old.
Yes, today years old. So I'm a fan of the show The Great British Bake Off, which is also on Netflix. And I went to watch the new season, and I wanted to watch the second episode, but it wasn't there. Only the first episode was there, and they announced they'd be dropping the second one in a week. So Netflix is going to start trying and rolling out a week-by-week episode model. Tara, you look appalled.
What are they trying to do to us? Everybody else does that. Hulu does that. HBO does it. Showtime does it. Netflix is the safe place that you can go to be like, if I can binge here in my safe place of Netflix. I don't know. And then I also argue like, the reason like HBO and Showtime's so fun is because you have to wait and it builds up a rapport and then you got to go watch it with your friends. You're like, Sunday night, this comes on. And that's a lot of fun. But like, Wolf already. Come on. I thought there's got to be one.
But you know the difference between Netflix and the rest of these other streaming services is that Netflix has such a huge database that, like for HBO, you know what you're going to HBO for, and they do have like a plethora of programming, but not as much as Netflix, because you can go from the 80s, the 70s, new, old, original programming, all of that stuff. So I personally think that Netflix should stick to what they do best. And if you have me here and you want to keep me here, and are you still watching? Yes, I am still watching because I'm here. But if I have to wait another week, I might not come back next week because there are other platforms that I'm already programmed to do that for. And although I think that Netflix has a bunch of great original programming, they're not who I go to first for original programming.
Yeah.
I agree.
Unless it's Glow.
Or for me, Stranger Things.
Stranger Things and Glow.
So that's the difference for me, at least. I think that if I want to binge something and stay on Netflix, so that's what I'm going to do. I don't know if week by week that's a great idea for them personally.
What do you think, Mina?
I think it's actually pretty smart that they're doing it because they're not doing it with all of their content. They're doing it with a portion to see like how our audience is going to react with that. So it feels like some sort of like A/B testing. And I think it's good to do that because I feel like if you're releasing it on a week by week basis, you're forced to come back to it. It's kind of like how, you know, like with the Bachelor franchise, they give us so much, but we still want to come back again and put ourselves through 4 hours of programming. And that's why, like, even during this panel, I feel like such a hypocrite because both Jeff and I, we watch Bachelor in Paradise.
We do.
It's 4 hours a week. And, like, it's not like it's, like, brilliant programming, but we still come back and we still enjoy it. And this show, specifically, that we were talking about today is only 10 hours for the entire series. So it's really, I don't know how we can endure Bachelor in Paradise and not this. I guess it's just fun to watch real people and
my
not puppets.
only counter to your point, Mina, would be that The Bachelor is brilliant programming.
It's fun. It's definitely fun.
It's not better than 90 Day Fiancé.
Fair enough. We have our guilty pleasure reality shows on this network. Interestingly, it seems like right now they're only focusing on reality competition shows to A/B test this, as you mentioned, Mina. So I don't know how I feel about it. My knee jerk was extreme frustration, but I love The Great British Bake Off, and I will without a doubt be watching it this Sunday. So I think this is probably a response to Disney+. The streaming wars are in full swing right now.
Yeah.
HBO Max is coming out, and Netflix doesn't have the juggernaut hold it used to. So they are in a position where they have to be trying this stuff. It will be very interesting to see how it shakes out for them.
I feel like everyone is in trouble because of Disney+. I don't see how anyone can compete with Disney+ when they own like everything. It's not just like Disney movies, it's Marvel, it's like
Star Wars.
They have everything for everyone, for kid audiences, for like the nostalgia audience groups, for the like superhero fans. I genuinely don't see how you can compete with that.
I do think pricing is going to have a lot to do with it, though.
Yeah.
I think that people have unplugged and they want more money. No, what am I saying? More bang for their buck.
Yeah, less money for more stuff.
Yeah,
and Disney's
so-
supposed to not be very expensive.
Well, but if you think of Disney as a company, I mean, I love Disneyland. I love Disney World. It's not cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also, I think,
agree.
are coming up with technology to like make it so only one person can sign in on one device. So
That's
it's
correct.
not like the Netflix thing where,
Boo.
yeah.
So
I just think if Netflix keeps coming out with Glow and Stranger Things, there's some really great original content that they do make.
I
And
agree.
Dave
that I
Chappelle
adore.
comedy specials.
That I'm like,
where else are you gonna find
Haven't
that?
watched that yet, but they do original stuff because they got the money in the bang bang. So if they keep it up, might not be so much competition because not everybody wants to watch Thor.
Right.
And, Black Widow every day. Not everybody's into that.
listen, I just recently watched the Dave Chappelle comedy special. And when I say I watched it twice, back to back, because there was too much going on, facts. Those are true stories.
I love it.
It was
I love
so
it.
good.
I will watch it.
I was crying.
Oh, I mean,
The Jesse Smollett bit. The Jesse Smollett.
it's not
Oh my
even
gosh.
Jesse. This is Julie. Like this French,
Julie, or he
yeah,
said Julie Smollett. Yeah, it was so funny.
this French actor.
I haven't seen it yet, but I just, we're a TV pilot show, so I thought this would be an interesting discussion to air. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, not only on the pilot, but Netflix's new model. Are they in trouble? Is this a new rollout? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And with that, I say we get out of here, guys. Any last thoughts on Dark Crystal before we peace out?
I'd love to hear what you guys have to think about it.
Me too.
Can't wait to see the comments.
And don't forget, if you don't love our take, we respect that. But you can check out our after show, which is a very super fan driven, in-depth look at the show and does go beyond episode 1. So it is our priority here at the network to make sure every single audience member is seen by what we do. So you can check that out. We appreciate you tuning in regardless, guys. This has been your TV pilot review show, where every week we bring you a new pilot. And today, as I mentioned, we covered The Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Jeff Graham. If you want to find me on Twitter, you can do that at Jeffrey C. Graham. As Mina mentioned, I am a shameless Bachelor franchise whore, and you can watch me on Tuesdays talk about it at 8 p.m. Pacific.
Guys, Linda is so girly all across social media. Please stay here on AfterBuzz TV. I've got Family Chantel, 90 Days the Other Way, and Before the 90 Days. If you are into 90 Day Fiancé, stay tuned.
Hey everyone, Mina here, and you can follow me on Instagram at Mina Makes Magic.
Guys, I hope my aunt still lets me use her HBO password and they don't make a rule where I can't. My name's Tara Erickson, TaraErickson, especially on YouTube.
Guys, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.